I'll hand the mic to Michelle. She will introduce our next guest speaker to you. And Ivan, we've got 1 hour. No more than 1 hour. Within 1 hour, we'll finish.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle, and I'm here to introduce my husband to you, Ivan Lazar. He's the next speaker. So just a little information about the family. We actually migrated from Singapore to Perth about 10 years ago, and ever since then we have been parish as Queen of Apostles. All my 4 children attended Queen of Apostles primary. Really blessed to have been placed in this parish, although we don't live in this area, we live in Canningville, so really happy to be here and to be part of this community. Just a little bit about Ivan. Now, he started off as an electronics engineer, but then he had a mid-career switch in his 30s, so he's actually a high school teacher. He teaches physics, engineering, maths, okay, so yeah. And so I hope you are ready for our physics class now. Okay, so the teacher is in the classroom. Listen up and pay attention because he's going to be asking questions at the end of his speech. Sorry.
I won't know exams.
Well, you will have a test at the end of it. So, yeah, let's give it up for Ivan. Thank you.
So while Ivan is doing that, just wanted to share with you that Ivan is an example of someone who's from our parish. And one of the things that we do at FAST24 is we want to nurture and encourage our own parishioners to be able to stand up and present. Not necessarily just at FAST24, but FAST24 will be a stepping stone.
Okay.
So one day we might have other events and we can contribute to the pool of Catholic speakers in here in Perth Archdiocese. And it's part of the training and development process. Every year we have one who's from our parish.
All right, good morning everyone. So when we came to Perth, we were looking around for a school. We needed vacancies at 4-year levels because I had 4 kids. And God directed us to Queen of Apostles, right? They had 4 vacancies and that's how we started off here. And when I introduce myself to people, I tell them that, I'm a teacher. And inevitably the question will become, what do you teach? And then I'll go, math, science, engineering. And then you could see the delight on their faces and they go, of course, why did I have to ask? I'm like, why was it so obvious that I would teach math, science, and engineering? Which I thought, okay, funny. And then somehow I would go on to, my wife's a teacher too. And then you go on to, your kids must be so lucky. You should ask my kids whether they felt lucky being the kids of 2 teachers. There was no wiggle room. Either mom caught them or dad caught them. But here they are, right? So about 2 months ago, David asked me to come and give a talk at FAST24. And in the euphoria of the moment, I said yes. And then it didn't occur to me that, I have to prep and all of that stuff. Okay, 2 months became 1 month. And then suddenly David said, when I met him, have you prepped for the thing? I'm like, that's a good point. we have to say some things. Okay, I can do this. And then I said, 1 month, you know what? 168 hours a week, 1 month is like, wow, hundreds of hours away. It's a long, long time away. And then 1 month became 2 weeks. And then the bulletin came up. Ivan Lazar is going to be speaking. No! And then I'd have to talk. And so 1 week ago, I started preparing all my slides. And I got it done about 2 days ago. And then the boss of my house looked at it. And then she went, are these the only slides you have? You have an hour. Right? And I thought to myself, right, if I prepared the number of slides she wanted me to do, it'll be fast 48. And if you remember the announcement I made at church, you know what I mean. All right, so here we are. But so when I started preparing the slides, the first thing that occurred to me was, and I looked at that, right? Pilgrims of Hope Apostles for Today, and I kind of Googled it. And I had to educate myself first what it all meant. And just that statement itself, I Googled it for a few hours to figure out what all those words meant. What does it mean right? What does Jubilee mean? And I went through the history of all of that. It was quite interesting that the first Jubilees were 100 years apart, right? And then as time went on, it became 50 and then 25, right? And the 2025 Jubilee, that's the one that's happening this year, has got a theme of Pilgrims of Hope. And it's a regular Jubilee. So the church has two types, right? One is a regular Jubilee, which falls every 25 years. And then there's another Jubilee, there's an extraordinary one that they call for a special occasion, right? So this is an ordinary Jubilee. And there are certain rituals that the Catholic Church performs with that. So let me just take you through a couple of things. Right, so the theme, thank you. So the theme for the Jubilee, right, is Pilgrims of Hope. And it started on December 24th, 2024. And it goes until Epiphany, which is Jan 6th of 2026. So just a little bit over a year. And the purpose of this special Jubilee, this ordinary Jubilee, is spiritual renewal, forgiveness, and a stronger connection to faith, which then had me thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? Because until you put it into action, they're just words, right? So you don't quite know what it is. All right, next one. Now, and because I teach in a high school, I actually teach in a Christian school up in Ellenbrook. So I drive every day 35 minutes. It was an hour-long drive when I first came because the Tonkin Highway was a Tonkin Street. Due to my constant complaining, they have upgraded it. And it's now the Tonkin Highway. So now travel times come down from an hour 15 to 35. But why so far? That's another question I get asked. So when I was applying for jobs, and I'm sure you guys would have come across this, and they ask you the first question, do you have any Australian experience? I'm like, unless you give me a chance, I'm not going to acquire that. But that school up in Ellenbrook, they said, all right, come on over, we'll give you a break. And so that's where I started. I've been there for now 11 years. So I do physics, engineering, and a little bit of consultancy work with the government body at SCASA. Now, as I'm teaching in school, it's a Christian school, so we do have a large number of Christians. A number of them are Catholics as well at the school. But I can see that they are like what you say, cradle Christians or cradle Catholics, but not many of them actually actively profess the faith or live it on a daily basis. So I actually Googled some information, and if you look at that from 1971 right up to 2021, the number of people who profess themselves as Christians has slightly declined across all the groups, right? Whether it's Christians or Catholics or other denominations, it has come down quite a bit. In fact, as Catholics, we have experienced one of the lowest loss. Right? If you look at the Anglicans, they are really down, right? And the other Christians have come down quite a bit. But Catholics, well, it's a 50% drop, but not as bad as the others, right? And if we want the Jubilee to continue for the next millennia or so, we really need a process of renewal, right? And therein lies the theme, apostles for today. What is the meaning of an apostle, right? And again, I had to Google that. Sure, I come to church 40 odd years and I say, the 12 apostles, the disciples of Jesus, and you hear those words, but you don't quite know what does an apostle do? And I looked up a couple of things and I came up with this definition, which I thought is pretty good. So apostle is generally a person sent on a mission, often with a religious or authoritative purpose. Okay, so you are on a mission, and what is the mission? And I think part of that would be to spread the word of God, because if you look at what the Jubilee is, right, that's kind of what it's leading to. So how do you spread the word of God? So I had this image of, you know those election campaigners, you wear a billboard or you stand on the streets or you set up a car and you drive past, believe in Christ, or death is coming, Jesus saves, right? But that kind of things really doesn't resonate with me, and I think it turns many people off, right? So if you look at some of the climate protesters, they have single-handedly turned people against the climate because of the way, the methods they employ. So then I thought of, how do we do this? How do we do this? And take inspiration from Matthew. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. Right? Next one. So how do we celebrate this? Right? How do we bring forth the message? How do we showcase our love for Christ? And I thought, why not let's start at home? So I've came up with like 4 things, like how we can grow our next generation and keep the Jubilee going on and on. So most of us have a family with kids and we got close friends, and why not start with them? They're like a ready audience, captive audience, because my kids can't really leave the house. Home prices are too high. So they got a captive audience. I can actually tell them. Funnily enough, when I say this at home, they don't listen, but now they can't run away. All right, so let's start with social connections. Yeah, next one. Okay, can you play that video?
Social connections are about the relationships and friendships you have with the people around you. When you have strong connections, you feel a sense of closeness, honesty, and belonging to the people who are important to you. You don't need heaps of friends to get the psychological benefits of good social connections. Having just 3 friends or family members you can count on is all you really need. Strong social connections will help you feel well, understand yourself better, be happier and more satisfied with life, and have support when you need it. Strong social connections are shaped by many things. Respect, trust, honesty, dependability, and loyalty are all traits of healthy connections. And remember, friendship is a two-way street. Everyone needs to play a part in nurturing and strengthening connections. That way, we can all get the benefits to our health and well-being that come with having good social connections.
Okay. So in the schools I teach, kids today seem to have lots of friends, right? You go on your social media platform, you got hundreds of people who listen to you or something. But more and more people are signing up for emotional distress, mental health issues and that kind of stuff. And that tells me like there's a difference between an acquaintance and a friend, right? So we have lots of friends, we have lots of acquaintances, but friends come few and far between. How do I say this? So the easiest way to distinguish is this, right? Someone asks you, how are you going today? And if your automatic response is fine, thank you, then that person is an acquaintance, right? If you can tell them, I'm not doing so well today, this and this happened, I had an argument with so and so, and I'm just not doing so well, then that person is a friend, right? So typically most people have 3 to 5 friends, right? You don't have to turn every acquaintance into a friend. That's not how it works. It's good to have acquaintances. It's good to be able to say, fine, thank you. That's fine. But you need to have a circle of friends. People you can say, oh, terrible. Can you handle this for me? Right? And a lot of the kids I see today don't seem to have that. Right? They need to put up this facade, right, to make it look like everything is honky-dory. And when things go south, they don't have a relationship with God either to actually turn to them, right? So kids who don't have a relationship with God or religion or friendship where they can share difficult times with, they tend to turn to drugs or gambling or other vices, right? So it's really important for social connections. Need a meaning or purpose in life, and we'll just catch that. Does it work?
There's a really important link between having meaning in your life and your sense of well-being. Research shows that people who can identify meaning in their lives have greater overall happiness and life satisfaction. If you feel your life has meaning, you're likely to be physically and emotionally healthier, more resilient, better at handling stress, and have greater control over your life. With a strong sense of purpose, it's easier to change unhealthy behaviours, helping you lead a life with less physical and mental health issues. To find your sense of purpose, think about what you love to do. What do you stand for? What's important to you in different areas of your life? School, family, spirituality, friends, community? What are the things you do that contribute to other people's lives? Try setting yourself a goal, something that not only benefits you, but others as well, and make your life more satisfying.
All right. If you talk to many kids, they tell you they are very busy. And apart from the studies, they actually don't have a real purpose or a meaning in life, right? And setting a purpose is quite important. It gives you something to do outside of your studies, right? And it gives you that goal, that determination. And look, I suppose we like a stress-free life, but I don't think that's good either. Too much stress, bad. No stress, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. There's an optimal amount of stress that you need because it gets you going. It says that you got to meet certain things, you got to do some planning, you got to make sure things go well. And what is the optimum level? There's no one figure, and it depends from person to person. Some people can handle more, some people can handle less, right? But you need a purpose, right? It gives you something to do. So in the context of apostles for today, and I'm looking at this purpose as being able to spread the word of God, right? Being able to communicate within our families, like, oh, what does it mean to live the word? What does it mean to be able to impart the values that we need so that it can carry on from generation to generation and the religion as a whole grows and all works together, right? So I've got a nice little activity, and I'm just going to demonstrate that a little bit, and then we can all do that before I continue with a little bit few more videos. Could I just have the three of you, please? Thank you. Yeah, come on up here. Thanks. All right, so we are all going to do this activity, and I'm just going to do a quick demonstration so that it comes up, okay? So you guys just turn away, and face me. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to give him a message. It's a visual message, and so I'm going to show him the message, and he can't say it verbally. He's just going to show the actions to the next person, and then the next person, and then we'll see how that morphs. Yeah. So obviously, with three people, hopefully it carries on correctly, but with all of you, that's going to be really funny. Okay. Okay, here's the message. So it's not a verbal message. I'm just going to show him what I want to do. So now you're going to turn around, tap his shoulder so he turns around to you and give him that message. Okay, thanks. Have a seat. All right, thank you. Okay, so that's the game we're going to play. Yes. So if you don't want to participate, that's fine as well. But I'm hoping more and more people do, because then it gets funny. So after you've done your turn, you just have a seat and just watch the fun. All good? All good. So if I can just get you guys to come on up here and just like one line here, and that'll work. Yeah, come on up. Dennis, come join us. I will keep the message simple.
It's going to be a long line.
Okay. All right. This is amazing. Okay. So listen. Could you all turn and face the wall or the screen so you can't see the message that's being sent? Okay. And I'm gonna start from Bob and then end, and then once you pass the message on to the next person, you can take a seat and just watch how that message evolves through there. Yeah. All right, Bob, we're going to do you first. Okay. Okay, Bob's got the message. It's now going. Yeah, Bob, you can have a seat. Yep, have a seat. Yeah.
Can I start a new message?
Yeah, you can have a seat. You can have a seat. All right. So it was really fun, but it showcased how messages change. And if I can do this original message for everyone's benefit, yes, and that will be interesting. So that was the original message. So we had like about 30, 40 people in that line. And you saw how in that short span that message actually evolved to the sign of the cross and then to piano playing. And right? And that is what happens when people communicate, right? When you say something, you have pre-existing knowledge in your head. There's a certain view that you have, your biblical worldview that you have is a little bit different from other people. You view the world through your own lens, right? Sometimes what we get into a community or a particular situation is just a newspaper article or news article. You got a small window, and then your pre-existing conceptions, your knowledge fills up all the blanks, right? And you saw that play through the message, right? People added in stuff, took away some stuff based on what their interpretation of what the message was, and by the time it got to the last person, it's completely different, right? And Bob is sitting there thinking like, that's not what he said. Right? So that's communication. And you find that in order to effective communication, you need to keep engaging the person every day. Right? It's not one time where you say, all right, kids, come sit. All right, it's a family, we're going to have a communication today. It doesn't quite work that way. Right? It's a constant message. And that's where I think coming to church every week as well helps with that communication process. Right? You get a message every week. It's a little by little by little by little. And if I were to ask you this question, right? What did you have for dinner a year ago? You can't tell. You don't know. You don't remember it. But you know that whatever you had for dinner nourished your body at that time. It's the same as coming to church, right? If you ask me, like, what did Father Paul say a year ago? Forget that. What did Father Paul say last Sunday? Right? But I know that at that point in time, whatever the message from the church was, the Gospels that we read, served to nourish my soul, right? It doesn't mean that you remember everything, but your body will, or your soul, or your mind, or you as a person, will hold on to the Gospels that speak to you, right? Right, let's do the next one. All right, so the effective communication, few things that my family does. We need time. We got to allocate time, and in the busy worlds we live in, that's becoming more and more challenging. And we fight for this time against the media, just resting, relaxing, activities to do, studies, things you, as a parent, I've got to do, right? Work to putting food on the table, paying the bills. So we fight for time against all this. So there's got to be a space. Obviously, time and space kind of go together. Safety. So people don't share stuff, or they don't tell you stuff if they feel unsafe. Part of that as a parent that we have had to navigate is being able to listen to what they have to say. And this is a fine line, right? Because you have to guide the kids in the way of the gospel, but at the same time, you don't want to come across as like, oh, you can't do that, that's wrong. And then the kids, you know what's going to happen? The kids are not going to tell you anything. But then if you're like, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll be a friend to you, then they're not getting guidance. Where is that line? It's very difficult. And the line today could be different to the line tomorrow. It's different from one kid to the next. It's tough being a parent, right? Right to disagree. So the kids have right to disagree. And when we first started this process, especially young people get emotional. They get upset and angry if you don't agree or you don't see the point of view. Or even I can get upset and angry. It's like, why can't you see this? It's so clear. The floor is black, right? And the kids must have the right of disagreement. Dad, the floor is not black. It's blue. And then you're like, I can see there's a shade of blue there, right? But there's got to be a safe right of disagreement. There's got to be a process where people can disagree, and you must be able to walk away with like, all right, you believe what you want to do, but this is it, and you've got to break down the wall slowly, either way, right? So the kids will approach me the next day or the weekday, you know, Dad, what I told you is like this, or you tell them, hey, Rhiannon, look at this, or Ryan, look at this, or, right, whichever one it is. So there's got to be a process. You've got to be, well, emotions and passion again, I know people will say like, oh, you've got to be unemotional, put emotions aside, but we are human beings. If there are no emotions in during the communication process, either the message is being, I don't care, apathy. If you're too emotional, then the message of the communication is lost. So again, there is a balance. There's got to be some emotion. There's got to be some amount of logical common sense. And that's where the wife and I work together, right? So the kids must have some emotional support, which clearly is not me. my wife is a lot more better in that aspect, right? So I'd like to put a word out here, right? So as a team, my wife is like the cement between the stones, right? She plays a very important role in this process, right? So I'm logical and I'm like, okay, this. But when she's not at home, my house is very quiet. The kids have all disappeared into the room. I'm doing my own thing. But when my wife is at home, we all come together. She just does it naturally. She just brings everyone together, all right? So I think in the homes, most women do that, right? It's just natural for them. And I think that aspect is terribly underappreciated in society, because you can't monetize it, you can't put a value on it, that people are not really valuing that aspect of it. Next one. All right. One of the biggest. Oh, sorry. My bad. I've forgotten to say one more thing. So that space that we have at home is actually at the dinner table. So at the dinner table, we try not to watch the TV, although it's there and it's running, and we tend to have dinner together. So when I grew up, right, I used to take my food and go sit in front of the TV and watched it. But I have realized how much, or rather the lack of communication I've had with my parents. And so it's quite important for me that we come together as a family. So whatever they're doing, they'll all come together. We'll all come together as a family. We normally make our announcements during dinner, like, oh, mommy, I did this today, or daddy, this is this happening. And there's friendly banter. There's also not so friendly banter. But that's where the family comes together, right? When we came to, we come from Singapore, an island that's smaller than Ireland. And when we came here, so I was an engineer by training, yes. Apparently, Perth doesn't need that kind of engineers. And I was given an option, you can either be a goat herder or a teacher. So I'm like, all right, I'll teach. Right? And that process worked for us. Okay, next one. And one of the things that we have had to battle is the social media space, right? Because you can access social media, whichever platform, I'm not against any particular platform, whichever platform, they get to your kids, or even they get to even adults, right? So if you look at some of the photos nowadays, or you take the public transport, right? Everyone's looking at the phone. And then the first thing is like, oh, this is terrible, society is degraded, we all... Actually, no. If you look at the photos back in 1940s, everyone's opened with a newspaper. So the form of entertainment has changed, right? But essentially, we do keep ourselves occupied. But the problem with the phones or social media is they tailor the content to your interest, meaning it hooks you. So I've know people, even my students, home, right? The first thing they do when they wake up is check the phone. I must have missed a message. Because if I don't check it, the stock markets are going to crash, the world is going to come to an end, there's an alien attack in the next neighborhood. I have to know, I've got to keep up to date. Or most likely, who's divorced who? Oh, look at that celebrity. Right? It feeds on your interest. And what the social media sites do is that they tailor the content. So if you search something, they then tailor your subsequent content to what you had searched. So you end up living in a bubble thinking that, oh, the world is like this, because you don't hear any of the other messages. Right? The companies are fantastic, because every time you click, there's a subliminal ad that comes up, a message that comes up, and this is what we are battling. Right? If you want to grow the Christian faith, if you want to grow, pass the message along, this is what you're battling, because they capture your attention from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. And because they get into your head first, whatever you say comes after that. And it's very difficult to convince people that, hey, that's not how it is. You've got to logically think through this. But it's very difficult because now they've occupied that headspace. You've got to remove that message or modify it or adapt it and put in what you want to say or what you want the world to kids. You want your kids to believe. Right? It's very difficult. And quite often, the person you are trying to communicate this to will put up some resistance. No, it's not like that. You are just one person saying it. You're my father saying it. It's not credible enough. Look at that. It's out there in the world, and this guy has got 2 million followers. He's correct. You're just one person. Right? And funnily enough, among the people who use social media, hardly anyone does a social media of the Bible stuff. Right? I've never seen any of my kids' school who's like, sir, look at that. Jesus is wearing a tunic. Never had that. But they come up to me and show me that, oh my God, look at what the celebrity is wearing. Right? Because that's what gets into the head first. Right? And you see them mimic that in their attire and the way they act and the kind of stuff. Right? So this is what we're up against. So you actually have to set aside time to communicate. I think that's the crux of getting our apostles for today and growing the faith and really keeping that thing going. Right? So can we do that last video?
With social media sites being used by 1/3 of the entire world, they've clearly had a major influence on society. But what about our bodies? Here are 5 crazy ways that social media and the internet are affecting your brain right now. Can't log off? Surprisingly, 5 to 10% of internet users are actually unable to control how much time they spend online. Though it's a psychological addiction as opposed to a substance addiction, brain scans of these people actually show a similar impairment of regions that those with drug dependence have. Specifically, there's a clear degradation of white matter in the regions that control emotional processing, attention, and decision-making. Because social media provides immediate rewards with very little effort required, your brain begins to rewire itself, making you desire these stimulations. And you begin to crave more of this neurological excitement after each interaction. Sounds a little like a drug, right? We also see a shift when looking at multitasking. You might think that those who use social media or constantly switch between work and websites are better at multitasking, but studies have found that when comparing heavy media users to others, they perform much worse during task switching tests. Increased multitasking online reduces your brain's ability to filter out interferences and can even make it harder for your brain to commit information to memory. Like when your phone buzzes in the middle of productive work. Or wait, did it even buzz? Phantom vibration syndrome is a relatively new psychological phenomenon where you think you felt your phone go off, but it didn't. In one study, 89% of test subjects said they experienced this at least once every 2 weeks. It would seem that our brains now perceive an itch as an actual vibration from our phone. As crazy as it seems, technology has begun to rewire our nervous system, and our brains are being triggered in a way they never have before in history. Social media also triggers the release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. Using MRI scans, scientists found that the reward centers in people's brains are much more active when they're talking about their own views as opposed to listening to others. Not so surprising, we all love talking about ourselves, right? But it turns out that while 30 to 40% of face-to-face conversations involve communicating our own experiences, around 80% of social media communication is self-involved. The same part of your brain related to orgasms, motivation, and love are stimulated by your social media use, and even more so when you know you have an audience. Our body is physiologically rewarding us for talking about ourselves online. But it's not all so self-involved. In fact, studies on relationships have found that partners tend to like each other more if they meet for the first time online rather than with a face-to-face interaction. Whether it's because people are more anonymous or perhaps more clear about their future goals, there's a statistical increase in successful partnerships that started online. So while the internet has changed our verbal communication with increased physical separation, perhaps the ones that matter the most end up even closer. Speaking of social media, we had you ask us questions on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Google+, and every other social platform we could find, and did it.
Yeah. All right, so social media, it's not all bad. It's how you use it, right? So for kids, if you are studying with your textbook and your phone next to you, that's probably, I think, not effective studying. You may be seated there for hours, but because you're constantly distracted by the messages that come, and here's the thing with messages, right? You get one message, and because your group has got 10, 15 members, and they all send messages, it just keeps ding, ding, ding. So even if you don't respond, your attention, your brain is being distracted, right? So what then is, how do we deal with this? So I tell my kids in school, right, put the phone away, or I tell my kids, put the phone away. Just study for that hour, and then go look at it, right? Just be focused in what you do. Echo. So just be focused in what you're doing at that point in time, and not get distracted, right? So that's kind of like a nice compromise we have. And again, this is going to be different for different people, right? So again, together with all of this, I feel like we can do the theme, right? Apostles for today, pilgrims of hope, and we can grow our religion. Thank you. So I've got a couple of minutes for questions. If you have any, I'll take them. If you don't have any, that's fine as well. Yes, Dennis.
Yes, actually.
Yep. Yeah, just I can pass this one.
Thanks, Ivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, great talk, Ivan. Very nice, simple terms. I think many people can understand. It just made me reflect on the last comment about multitasking.
Yep.
And, yesterday I was just working from home, and it dawned on me that I actually am multitasking. Because I had my computer, 2 computer screens.
Mm-hmm.
I was focusing on a document. Next to me was my mobile phone, and people were texting me, and I was expecting phone calls. And then I have a WebEx chat with people are messaging me.
Yep.
And then in the lounge, my wife is sitting there in the lounge asking me to do household chores at the same time. So it's very hard to get away from focusing on just one subject. So I kind of pat myself on the back and we did a good job yesterday.
So that's actually very true. We live in a multifaceted world, right? It's actually quite common to have multiple screens, doing multiple tasks, and the technology enables this, right? If I can maybe make that a little bit clearer in the sense that there is good multitasking because you have an aim and you are multitasking to achieve that aim. So I usually get on the back of my eldest daughter because she studies with her mobile phone. And I'm like, Rhiannon, put the phone away and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but Daddy, I am collaborating with my friends. How do you argue with that, yes? But she's not pulling a fast one. She's actually being honest. So I can see that her friend is studying at home with her device and my daughter is studying in my home with her device. And they are having a common line of communication like, oh, what did you do for this one? What do you do for that one? And how do you do this? Right? So that's happening. And in between there's probably another chat group that'll ping, and then she gets distracted. And life is like this, right? Whenever I walk in is when she's taking a break. So initially there was skepticism, but I've grown to accept that is her, and we have a truce. So you can't have everyone, there is no one standard or one criteria for a standard, right? You have to look at the individual and how they do things, and you need to find a way that works. That's how families are, right? So if in that thread, like when coming from Singapore, we wanted to buy this big double-story home. Just people in Singapore live in really small homes, so coming here was like an Australian dream to have a big house. Instead, we didn't get to that dream because circumstances were that we had to buy something smaller. But after living 10 years, it's amazing. Because it's smaller, all my kids are around the home. They're around central areas. There is no private area where the kids go off and they spend the time, because it's more fun being common. And the part that makes us a family and not as a collection of strangers is getting on each other's nerves is what makes you a family. I need the toilet. Dung, 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 dung. I'm not done yet, right? Or like, Mommy, I got some toilet for so long, right? And I think that's what makes us a family. Like even at the dinner table, this is my half, that's your half. Oh, your elbow's in the way, right? And I think that's the biggest difference between a collection of individuals versus a family, right? So if given a chance to do it again, I'll probably pick something smaller, just so that there is greater communication, if that puts it that way. So multitasking is good in certain ways, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Kaj? Oh, okay.
So when we were growing up back then in the 80s or 90s, we didn't have, internet started in 94. That's when the same time the computers and all. So we grew up without a mobile device.
Yeah.
Growing up. We used to communicate, go out and play, and we did all stuff. If we didn't study, we get whacking
Yes.
from our parents, which we don't see here. We don't touch our children because of some consequences. So the basic thing is there is no consequences. But we had that.
Yep.
If we didn't study, we used to get whacked. Now, everything changes. So with the internet, mobile phone, my kids also, when I'm there, they are studying the screen. The moment I turn, they change the screen. Same thing with the mobile. Now my question is, I can't restrict them, or don't use the phone, I'll stop your internet connection. I say that, but I don't do it.
Yeah, you can't.
How do we, I know it's a tough question,
Yeah.
how do we control that? Is there something we say, okay, 9 o'clock, stop your phone. I say that. I don't want any phone going in your bedrooms. It has to be there at a location. But ultimately, next day morning, you say the phone is in the bedroom. It's very hard, because kids don't realize this, how bad it is. We were told 8 hours sleep, so that you get up fresh in the morning, your brain is fresh. It's like, cleansing happens in the night when you sleep, your body. We were whacked and we were told that, whether it's school, whether it's at home, because school is our secondary home. But here nothing happens at all. That's what I feel. What is, according to you, as a teacher, you are a teacher, and I came in here to listen to your talk, what you were, I especially. So, what is your advice, your suggestion as a teacher? How can we get to, not so control, because you can't control them, how we can get that achievement?
Okay. Kaj, thank you for the question. That is a very good question. And I think even as parents, not just you, I think everyone grapples with the pace of advancement in society and how you deal with all of that stuff. You are correct to say that if you go too hard on the kids, all you're going to do is drive that behavior underground. So the phone appears in the bedroom in the morning, that's kind of what happens. I think, okay, so because I'm a science teacher, I tend to follow what the research goes. And I follow this institute called the Gurin Institute. So they do brain scans and the kind of stuff. And it informs my teaching process in school. And they've done brain scans of kids in the class who just look bored. If it's a male student, the brain is completely blue. That means completely shut off. It's amazing how he's still breathing, but it's shut off. For girls, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. Even when girls look terribly bored, there is some part of it that is still switched on. It's funny. That's how my wife catches me doing all the wrong things. But you see them from young, right? I think part of it is, in the school I teach at least, we have something called pastoral care, which I think if you are in a private school, it is part of the curriculum. And in pastoral care, we actually give the kids the information, right? This is what is happening to your brains. You can't put the phone down because the phone or social media is a drug. So when you do the brain scans, you can see the parts of the brain that becomes active is exactly the same as if you took a physical drug. So the phones, and they're hooking the young brains, and because brain development isn't complete until the age of 26, right? So your kid may look grown like 18, but their brains are immature, right? Or it's only at the age of 26 that it is set. Which is why, as an adult, if you take up studies in your older years, you find that you're so much slower because your brain is set and it's very difficult to form new neurons and that kind of stuff. When you're younger, you can, right? So the brains are not complete. And when they stimulate the brain in that way on a daily basis, hours and hours a day, the brain develops differently. It gets hooked onto that chemical that the body releases because they feel good doing it. Right? It's like a drug. It's like a drug. How do we fight this? How do we fight this? I think both parties need to come to the table. Your kids need to understand what's actually happening to them. Right? Chances are that if you have a communication process with them, you can hopefully get part of the message through. Because remember I said how these companies occupy the kid's brain first? So whatever you say to them, they always resist it. They're like, no, what you're saying is wrong, Dad. 2 million people believe it. 2 million people, all my friends do it, Dad. You're crazy, you're nuts, right? But you got to keep messaging it again and again and again and again and again and again, right? It's got to be, just like how the social media companies do it, like subliminal advertising. You cannot sit them down, all right, today, chapter 1, I'm going to talk, it doesn't work that way. So you're not going to get into the heads by setting a fixed curriculum. So I do it via teachable moments. You know, things that happen on the media or real world or TV or in the lives, and I pick them. Remember the day when I said that? And I tell them, look, this is how it can be avoided, or this is what's happening. And sometimes you get rolling eyes, and then I tell them, good, keep rolling your eyes. Let's check if there's a brain back there. Right? But you got to keep messaging to the kids, because what I find is a lot of kids understand what you're saying. Right? They actually do. Even when they are fighting you, even when they are resisting what you're telling them, they are actually listening to the message. It takes, just like how change is difficult for us, it's also difficult for them. The message needs to come over a period of time so there is some acceptance. Right? Saying it once, lots of resistance. Saying it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and you find that the level of aggression towards you will start to decrease, and then there is acceptance that, oh, this is happening. Because while in this time space, while this is happening and you're using teachable movements, they are seeing it for themselves as well. Right? They're also experiencing life, and they are seeing it for themselves, how it is taking over the lives of people who used to be fantastic and then now being taken off on a sideline. They are seeing it as well. Right? Just like how we have grown through our years, it takes time. The kids are also growing. And believe me if I tell you that a lot of kids want to stop it, but they can't. It's a drug. It is a drug. right? The brains are like, oh no, I got to check it. I can't. Oh, I think my phone vibrated 5 seconds ago. Something must have happened in the world since 10 seconds ago. I checked it. I got to do it again. Oh look, someone said that. I have to respond to that. Oh no, I cannot respond to that. Right? It's a drug. Right? It's going to take them some time to come off that drug. It's going to take them some time for the brains to mature, to be able to deal with that chemicals that are being released. Right? I think in very, very severe instances, then you have to go for one of those addiction clinics to actually do that. But I have not seen, like in like 10 years of teaching, 11 years teaching, I've only seen like 2 kids who actually did that. But for most people, they tend to come of it, right? So again, the message is not zero social media, because really you don't want to live like a recluse. You still got to connect with the world, you still got to make friends, and believe it or not, a lot of the friends are on these platforms. So, right? So you cannot stop that, right? You're probably harming your kid way worse than the other way around. But between you and the kid, there needs to be some agreement, and there needs to be accountability, right? Because you can't go in and check your kid every hour, right? Or in my case, every time I check, she's on the phone, but she's not. Just that the coincidence of that process. But if your kid's accountable, and I think you need to get the message to the kids that you are doing it for their benefit. I want you to turn out to be much better, so that in 10 years' time, you thank me, right? Some medicine is bitter, right? And once they believe that message, that you are trying to help them, it's not that I don't want you to be on the platform, that's not the message. I just want you to use it responsibly, right? It is going to take time. And there is no guarantee of success, unfortunately. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah. All good? Thank you.